into the swing of my author chat. And tonight we have the lovely Carla Howatt, who has been writing for a while, and I cannot wait to talk to her about her books because it's step. There you are. Hello. How you doing, Carla?
I'm doing fantastic. And yourself?
Good. I am okay. I am getting over jet lag. Um, I've been away for the first time in like 3 years, and I forgot what jet lag felt like. So it's rough.
Where'd you go?
We went to Florida actually, and we went concentrated down south. So we kind of did the Everglades and Key West, and which we hadn't done that area before. So it was lovely to have some sand and ocean, and
Canada.
there we go. That's because the time zone. I always just assume the States, but there you go, Canada. I love Canada
We're the
too.
nice,
Yeah.
we're the nice relative of the States.
You're what? Sorry, say that again.
The nice relative of the States.
The better relative, maybe. I can say that because I'm actually American, but I grew up in the UK, so I'm a bit of a
Okay.
yeah. So Carla, for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about your books and what you write.
Well, I'm actually kind of learning what I write. I started off with nonfiction, and I always thought that is where, like, I was a good writer for non. Oh, you've got wine.
I got prosecco. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock here, so I'm allowed.
It's
You
only
you are
one
you are also
here.
welcome. You are also welcome. Yeah. I got my crown and
Um,
my prosecco. No author chat would be complete without either. So that's how we roll.
I love the. So I started off with non-fiction, and I kind of branched out into. I had one book that I really wanted to write that was fiction, but it was based on
Real
some
stuff.
of my own experience,
Yeah.
and it was one of those stories that, like, I just got to get out. And then after that, I kind of dabbled in this, dabbled in that. And I'm just now kind of landing into where I really want to be, which is going to be more of the thriller type
Oh,
books.
exciting. Really exciting.
Yeah.
And are we talking like cop procedural things or other things going on?
Well, actually, it's going to be a thriller series that is going to star the protagonist is going to be a heroine who um, she buys and sells things, storage units,
Oh,
and runs into all kinds of interesting things in them.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, is this something you started writing? How far along are you in the process?
Not very far. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have been basically a pantser,
Okay.
but that goes against my nature.
Right.
It's just been so done.
Mhm.
So I actually got a lot done, but I haven't written anything yet.
Yeah.
It's well outlined now, and I've got my character
Yeah.
profiles and all of that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
not going to take long once, you
Absolutely.
know.
And I always think the more work you do at that stage, the easier it is when you come to the writing, especially if you're planning a series because you want to look at your character arc, not just across each book, but across the whole entire series and how that's going to change. And that takes a lot of thinking, especially with a thriller, because I always think it's so hard to be a thriller writer, to do a mystery, because you want to leave clues, but you don't want to make it too obvious, and you need to have some red herrings. And I think it must be really hard to actually get that right. It would terrify me. So hats off
Well,
to anyone that can write that. Yeah.
and that's part of the reason why I decided that no, I really got to do the outline and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm trying something a little bit new too. Well, new for me is I'm going to be writing it with a friend of mine.
Oh.
So we're going to co. So
Okay, so
yeah.
how is that going to work? Are there going to be multiple points of view that you both take different parts, or are you going to approach that differently?
Well, we've done some research on it because I'm all about doing the research. Don't reinvent the wheel. So we have decided to go with a format where she's writing one chapter and I'm writing another chapter,
Okay.
because we don't really have different points of view. So we're each going to take it. But the reason why we decided to write together is that she is really good at descriptive stuff.
Okay.
She's really good at putting all flesh on the bones.
Yeah.
I am more about development.
Mm.
I like the psychological aspects of the people that I write about. And so what we're going to do is I'll write a chapter, she'll write a chapter, then we're going to switch and do the editing.
Right.
And so if I come to a, I think, you know, it needs a little bit more than I feel, then I'll just highlight and go to town.
I cannot wait to hear more about this as you write it, because I think that's a fascinating way to go about it. And I do, you know, I kind of think, are the voices going to be the same? But I guess if you're editing each other's work, that will all smooth out, won't it? And it will then all sound like one cohesive person. And then you get the strengths of both of you, don't you? Oh, wow, fascinating.
Well, and what we're hoping for is that we will have the strengths of her descriptive writing, the strengths of my character development, and that we aren't, it's not going to sound like either one of us. It's going to sound like a marriage of the two of us.
Yeah.
So it's its own unique voice rather than sounding more like me or sounding more like her or being disjointed.
I mean, I've seen authors co-author things together with different points of view, but never one point of view. So I cannot wait to hear what goes well and maybe what is hard. That would be a really interesting process.
I've been really giving some thought, thinking that, you know what, I'm wondering if we should be documenting this as we go through the process and putting it on YouTube or TikTok or something like that, where we are actually, like, we've had a session where, because I had done most of the plotting out before we made this decision. And so her approach was, we'll just go with what you've got and let's build on that.
Okay.
And so her and I were on the Zoom with our wine and going through all of these different things, and she was adding this and we were questioning that, and I was realizing I had left a gap here, and like just going through that whole process. While I don't think it would be interesting to sit there and watch us do it for 3 hours, I think pieces of it would be kind of
I think especially when you get to a bit that you think, oh, I needed to add a bit more there, or vice versa. I think those bits will be really interesting to see how your perspective is different when you're doing that. So will you write like one chapter and then hand it over and she'll read that and then write the next chapter and then hand it back over? And
no, what we did actually, like what we've done so far is we've plotted out the first 2 chapters. I'm writing the first one, she's writing the second one, then we'll switch.
Okay. Wow. So you really need to know what's happening in each chapter. No room for your characters wandering off script like they do in my books.
Well, and basically what we've done is we have said, this is where this chapter starts and this is where this chapter ends.
Yeah.
This is what needs to happen in there, and then it's up to whoever's writing that chapter to run with it.
Yeah. So exciting. Yeah, I definitely
we also
go ahead.
We also did up an agreement beforehand. I think I called it a proclamation or reading the bans or something like that. We did it in archaic language. But basically, it was just an agreement. Like, for example, if I write something in a chapter, she can't unwrite it in the second chapter. So, for example, somebody dies in chapter 4, she can't resurrect them in chapter 5.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess you would have to have some sort of agreement that, you know, your plan, you've agreed on the plan and what's happening, and off you go, so that works. And is this the same co-author you've had before or a new co-author?
No, this is brand new. Yeah. She's a friend. Be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that you have left non-fiction behind you for the time being, or do you think there's more?
No.
yeah, there's more there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my background is communications or public relations. So I write for a living and have written for a living, and I have, I've ghost written books and stuff like that. So um, that's always probably going to be part of what I do. But where my passion is right now is with the
Yeah,
fiction.
is with the fiction. Oh, exciting. I think, yeah, I do. I think it's when you have a new passion or a new idea or you want to try something new and you've got all that experience as well to put into it. I think it's such an exciting. I can't wait to read it. Yay. Do you have a date when you're wanting to get the first one out? Do you have a timeline?
Well, what we're actually hoping to do is do a fast release. So we're hoping to get 3 books done
Yeah.
before we release them. So it's going to be a little bit yet.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I think
A
especially
lot.
if you want to get through three, get them all edited and stuff like that. So will you, we've touched on the fact that you plotted this one quite heavily. What will you do? How will you approach editing? Will you just use each other, or will you hire a professional, or whether you use beta readers? How will you approach that process?
We haven't really gotten to the point of discussing that. I think um, my feeling is that because I do editing and she has done editing, that we will probably use each other and then maybe go to
Yeah, beta readers.
readers
Yeah,
and just see how it goes. A lot will depend on how we feel about where it's at, because you kind of have a sense. You kind of know whether it feels polished or not. So
yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I
yeah,
think, considering how much writing you've done in your life, you definitely have a feel for that by now and you know what it needs. And you develop an instinct for if something's working or not, I think. And excellent.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And yeah.
yeah.
And you
It,
held
it took
accountable by your co-author. So, I think that works quite well. Yeah, hopefully.
yeah,
I think it's my head. It's falling
a
in.
bit to get to knowing where I wanted to write and stuff. I dabbled in everything from nonfiction to children's books,
Yeah,
um, and just tried a little bit of this, that, and everything,
yeah,
just to kind of see it up. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, TikTok, let's talk about Book Talk. How long have you been on Book Talk for?
Oh, I'm not even sure because I didn't start off on Book Talk. I just started off, I felt like, oh, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And so I came on just myself and never really even thought about books.
Right.
So, yeah. And then then I thought, at one point, I thought, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to do some reading.
Yeah.
So I have a novella mini series that I started.
Mm.
And so I started reading from that and just
Yeah.
tried it out.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. I like how people just kind of fall into it. Some people, I came in through my kids thinking, this is silly, but there's got to be a book corner there somewhere. And then, because I was doing Facebook ads and things like that, I'm thinking, my audience, I write young adult, my audience isn't on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, where are my audience? I was like, they're on TikTok, like my kids. So it's funny how people, got here, and how it's exploding. And how have you found the whole experience? Do you think it's helped with your book sales, or was that never your intention?
It was never really my intention, and I haven't really focused greatly on it. In fact, I've been like I go through bursts where I'll come on and I'll do a bunch of posts, and then I'll like just drift away.
Yeah.
So I'm really bad,
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah.
So I can't. So I can't say it's helped books, but that's not because that's more on me than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all about consistency and on TikTok, really, I think. But that's why the drafts folder is very good. I just create a lot, and then I was worried because I changed my phone yesterday. I'm not sure, but it was fine because I have 3 accounts,
Yeah.
and I have about 50 drafts in each account. So I was like, I don't want to lose all that. No, thank you.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
you're writing thrillers. Are thrillers your favorite genre to read as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So who
Oh,
might
yes.
be some of your favorite authors or series?
I like Ruth Ware,
Mm-hmm.
um, Lorraine Moriarty.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right now, right now I'm doing a bit of a deep dive into Janet. Uh, oh, I can never pronounce her last name properly. Janet Ivanovich,
Ivanovich. Yeah.
and her Stephanie Plum series.
Right.
That is sort of doing some research on how she handles the series and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I read those quite some time ago, and they're funny as well, which is unusual for a
And
thriller, I think. And there was a
well,
movie, wasn't there, of one of them?
yep,
Yeah,
2012 there was,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And my quite funny. So I think the
Good.
books are going to have.
Yeah, it's helpful when you've got something, in the same space that you can use to kind of do that research and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
tell me about your nonfiction. Was that all, passion projects, things that you felt you needed to get out? Yeah, that compelled you to
yeah.
write about those things.
Well,
Yeah.
in preparation for our chat, I
Yeah.
went and grabbed my books.
Ah.
Um, this is the very first one that I did, and it's the old cover. I don't like this as much, but I don't have a copy of the new one. But this one is the first one I published. It's called Bearing Witness: One Mother's Online Journey After Suicide.
Yeah.
This one I didn't know I was writing until I was ready to publish it, because what it is, I don't know if you can see if this, but they are actually
Wow.
they're Facebook posts.
Right.
And so this is a collection of all my Facebook posts from the time I lost my son to suicide on July 19th, 2015.
Wow.
And I started posting about my journey, and it was so helpful. Like, there were so many people that were just so supportive,
Yeah.
and shocking to me how many people came forward. And there was one woman who said, my mom took her own life 20 years ago, and I've never talked about it. And I'm like,
Wow.
you know, and so I've always been very open. At the time, I was a politician at the time that he passed away. And so I had a bit more of a bigger platform. And so just sharing my journey and trying to destigmatize mental health
Yeah.
and stuff was really important to me.
Yeah.
So I had shared all these Facebook posts, and then what year did I publish this one? 2017. So I lost him in 15, and by 2017, I gathered up all of those Facebook posts and the pictures that went with them and stuff like that. None of the comments were there,
Yeah.
but all of my posts, and put it together into a book, and I call it my accidental book.
I think that is incredible.
So
I
yeah,
really do. I think it's brave and strong and helpful and a fantastic idea as a book as well to collate all of that. It reminds me a little bit of something my
well,
mother just did. So my aunt has Alzheimer's and she's been in a home for a few years now. But she used to work for the Foreign Service and she moved every 2 to 4 years. And she would write letters to her parents, to my mother, to, the whole family, before email and all that. So my mother typed up all of her letters and has put it in a book. And it is the story of Jeannie from, the early 60s all the way through to maybe the mid 80s, late. And her whole life, where she lived in Spain and Sri Lanka and Turkey and, Cairo and all these places. But it captures so much, I think, when you do something like that. And you have a memorial and a memento, all in those pages of that book, really, which I think is quite beautiful.
well, when you're a writer, you have to write.
Yeah.
And when something as traumatic and life-changing as that happens, if you're a writer, you're going to write about it probably.
Yeah.
I know that people find they can't, but for me, I needed to write.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the same way.
and so
Writing has always been my therapy. And although I write fantasy and dystopian and things like that, all of my books have mental health rep because I have had anxiety disorder for God knows how many years. And I never found books that reflected me. And my books are not about overcoming anything. It's just that the characters happen to have these things, as well as trying to save the world or whatever they're doing. So I feel
yeah,
like we are kindred spirits in that way. That mental health is very important to represent and show.
yes,
And absolutely, fab.
yeah. And then let me see, what did I do next? Then I did. There was a book called "Look Who's Talking: How to Communicate So You Get Reelected," and I did that with. I sat. I was a politician with a lady who's now a good friend of mine,
Okay.
and so we wrote that because my background was communications,
Yeah.
and I realized there was very little out there for people that got into politics and weren't prepared for the communication part of it.
Right.
So we put that in. Yeah.
Good.
And
Good.
there's other little books that we did. And then I decided, I wonder if I can write a kid's book because
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to write. So I wrote this one. It's called, I don't know if you can see
Pink
it.
Pink. Yeah, I've got your Amazon
Pink,
page open so I can see it on there as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell on there, but it's actually a.
Oh, I love that.
So it's pink, pink, what do you think? And blue, blue, how do you do?
Yeah.
And basically, through talking about everything that is pink, and it's showing boys and girls that are wearing pink, but it's like a big oinking pig, a lavender sunrise, sleepy eyes, flamingo standing tall and funny, an ice cream all melted and runny. But then pink, pink is for everyone, don't you think?
Yeah.
And then both the boy and the pink, and then it does the same with the blue.
Yeah.
So when
Oh, I
people
love
say,
it.
right, so when people say, what children's book did you write? I say, I wrote one on the degenderization of colors.
Yeah. And do you know what fascinates me about pink and blue? And I don't know where I came across this. I was doing research for something, but um, after the war, Second World War, it was when pink and blue became a thing. But it was actually blue was for girls and pink was for boys. Because pink was gentler on the male complexion, apparently. I don't know at what point it flipped, but originally it was pink for boys and blue for girls. So I always find that incredibly fascinating how that's now come so stigmatized and stereotyped into the other way around. So I love that book.
Yeah.
I think that's fabulous. I'm going to recommend that to everyone. It's perfect. Perfect, especially in today's time.
It's a great baby shower book.
Yeah. Well, and I think for preschool kids who are learning about gender and, especially in today's world when we are exploring all of those things, it's a really great book to have handy, actually. Fabulous. Wow. You are one smart lady. I'm impressed. Yeah.
So then from there, I wrote this one. It's called She, a Cautionary Tale.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a fiction book based on a relationship I was in that was extremely dysfunctional. Okay. And I thank my stars. I thought I was devastated when it failed, but look back now and thank my lucky stars. Now that I know more, I think he had a narcissistic personality disorder. And so anyway, this is Olivia, who's a single mom of 2 boys. Let's see. This was actually the first I wrote, which is called Writer's Retreat, and it's a novella. Okay. And I wrote it during a writer's retreat, and it was the first time I realized, maybe I can write fiction. And that's about 7 women and 1 man at a writer's retreat, but only 6 come out alive.
I love that. That's where you're getting your love for thriller, aren't you? I love it.
Well, it's slowly, gradually, and then this one here. So the women that are in here, there's Beth, Ashley, Veronica, Cheryl, blah, blah, blah. And then there's Eve. And so I wrote the second book in the series, which is about Eve. And so there's little breadcrumbs in here about Eve that the questions are answered in Eve.
I like that. Clever.
And then COVID hit,
Yeah.
and that's when I fledged thriller.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote, in 6 weeks, I wrote the.
As it's still going on, yeah.
The beginning of COVID was extremely liberating for me. Extremely liberating. I had extremely anxious and my mental health wasn't doing great. So all of a sudden, I was in a situation where time, and I felt like the world's burdens had lifted off my shoulders. It was really, mentally, it was very, very healthy for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I down and thought, I'm going to write this. I have this story I'm thinking about, and it's about what happens when what you think is true is what. It's an exploration around how do we trust the truth when there's no truth anymore? Because it used to be, well, the picture proves it. Right? You'd see a photograph and that proves something. Well, now we know a photograph proves anything, but at least if you saw a video of it, you would know it was true. Well, now that's no longer true. So what is truth anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what the deception kind of.
Yeah, absolutely, which ties in quite nicely to the idea of fake news, because anybody can fake news, so yeah, I totally agree. And I also had similar experiences with COVID, in the sense that, to begin with, it was a nightmare when I had to homeschool the 3 kids, but once they moved online, and I didn't have to drive them to all their after school clubs, and I didn't have to go out and see friends every weekend, and it was nice just to take a step back and breathe, I think. So I can completely understand where you're coming from when you say that, I think. And now we're back to school and running them around again, and I'm just like, I need a duvet day.
At the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Because we're struggling so hard, and I was not.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get
But
that.
it was, I think it was good learning for everybody, whether it was a positive or negative experience, about really how do you want your life to look? How busy do you want to be? Because COVID kind of proved that you don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to run around to different meetings. You don't have kids to all these different whatever. You don't have to do all this stuff, because the world doesn't stop if you do.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I look at my husband, who, he's always worked in London, and he's always had big jobs, and he would never consider working from home, maybe 1 day a week at the most. And now he's like, why do I want to go in the office? He likes sparking off people, but now he's like, I lose an hour each way traveling. He can take a conference call while he's walking the dog. It's so much more freeing for him to not have to do that. So yeah, for us, other people had obviously a lot different situations, so that can be hard too. Yeah, there we go. So tell me about, when did you know you wanted to write books? Did it all come from your personal experiences from that, or was there a glimmer before that when you were in your communications jobs and things like that?
Well, I remember coming home from school in the 1st grade, and I had a little Dick and Jane book with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to read this first. It was the first book. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming home so incredibly excited. I felt like I'll still remember that feeling. A feeling like the entire world had opened up to me.
Oh.
Possible. And I've never really that, and I wrote all the way through elementary, junior, senior high, and so it's always been part of my life. And so writing a book was always sort of like, it was inevitable I was going to, but when I get to it, I had 3 kids and raised them, you know, and went through a husband, got rid of my first husband, and, you know, like lived life. And so it
Life.
just didn't, because it was,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but no, it was always going to happen. I always knew it was going
Yeah.
to happen. It was just a case of,
Oh, I think that's lovely. I like it when it's meant to be like that, and it's just something, you know, at some point will be there. And I mean, I was always a bookworm for reading. I didn't know I was going to write because my mother always told me I didn't know how to write. It's not her fault. It's not really. I was always maths and science kid at school, so it didn't occur to me to go that way. So it took a while to understand that that's where my real passions were. But that's a whole other story. So what were some of your
well,
favorite child? Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, my parents informed me the other day, a few weeks ago, that they said, well, you know, remember when you were in junior high and your English teacher told us that he always put your stories to the bottom of the pile because he always wanted to end on a high note?
Aww.
I said, I don't remember that. And they're like, oh, yeah, we told you. And I'm like, I think I would have remembered that.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you remember forever, isn't
So,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
how lovely is that? Oh, I wish
Yeah.
my teachers had said that. That's fabulous. Really fabulous.
Oh.
So, what do you think influenced you, or what were some of your favorite books as a child, or might have influenced you as you were growing up?
Well, when I was a kid, it was Nancy Drew,
Yeah.
Trixie Belden, that kind of thing. And then I hit about 12 or 13 and I became this voracious Harlequin romance reader.
Yeah.
Back in the day when they were all nurses and doctors,
Yeah.
and the most action that happened was a glance and a
Yeah.
hand against hand fleetingly passing over the hand kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very chaste. But I remember when I was about 14, I donated 250 Harlequin romances to our local library.
Fabulous. I love it. Do you regret that? Do you wish you still had them all?
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I have read so much in my life that if I had all the books that I read,
Yeah.
I would be,
Yeah.
yeah, no, no. And I've actually really gotten good at saying goodbye to books.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
There are books.
what helps me is that if it's a book from an author I love, I will buy the paperback and that will be shelf worthy. But if it's like something, I'm in a couple of book clubs and I know probably not going to love it, I'll Kindle it or audiobook it, and then it doesn't take up space. So that's kind of how I deal with that issue now. Yeah.
Well, we have a free library. Are you familiar with the free libraries?
Um, well, we have, I mean,
Oh,
all our libraries are free here.
okay, well, no, this is outside on my lawn. I
Okay.
have on this post, it looks like a little bird feeder kind of thing, but it's a
Yes,
bit
I know
bigger.
what you mean. Yeah.
So they're called little free libraries or something. And so I have one for adults and then I have another one for kids. And so I often will go and raid that. So there's always something out there to read.
So good. I love that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
yeah, I noticed here the old red telephone boxes have been converted into those free libraries, and I noticed one only 5 minutes from me, and I drive by it all the time, but hadn't really clocked what it was. And there's a little convenience store next to it, which I needed to pop in, and I went, it's one of those free libraries, so I need to go over and take some pictures of it and see what's in there for TikTok, and because that's the
Oh,
only one I've seen around me, but they're fabulous. Yeah.
I want one.
Yeah.
I would love to have one of those little red phone boxes. For the kids, I found one actually at Goodwill. It was a shelf, but it had a door that closed and it looked like a little house. So we just converted that, covered it in shellac and whatnot, and put it out.
Oh, I love it. I love they're just like little magical moments, aren't they? I think when you happen across these things, and it's kind of like the
Yeah.
old days where I don't know if you ever stayed in hostels when my husband and I were traveling before we were married, and we were hosteling around Canada and the States, and they would have a shelf of books, and you would leave what you'd read and take something new, and get to the next hostel and do the same. So there's that whole unwritten law going around, which was great fun. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So in your writing journey, what is there anything that's really surprised you about from when you started to where you are now?
I don't think anything in particular has been like, oh my gosh, I'm shocked. It never ceases to amaze me how writing is such an ongoing learning experience. It's not like I've always considered myself to be a good writer, but there's always something else to learn.
Yeah.
There's always something, some other approach, some other way to look at things, different methods to use. I find that really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And thanks to YouTube, we have them all.
Yes. I love seeing the short little 10-minute tutorials on YouTube, because it just breaks everything down to those bite-sized chunks and makes it so much more accessible, I think, than reading all these craft books about, Save the Cat or whatever you're into. Yeah, I think that's a fabulous that we are still learning, and that you learn differently from different people. And I think one of the really interesting things is that there are some times when you're not ready to learn something, but later on you are. And for instance, when I look at like some of the craft books I have, and Donald Mass's book on the emotion of character, whatever it is, and I had that on my shelf for a few years, and I thought, I know I'm not ready for that. And I needed to write more and learn more and have editing. And then I picked it up and I thought, now I'm ready for what you have to teach me. So there are stages when you need things, and stages when you just need to wait a little bit, or things like that, which I find quite interesting about the process as well. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I have a friend.
No,
yeah, go on.
With you. I think that, like, with Bearing Witness was just something I needed to do, and same with I just needed to get it out. There was no thought for pacing, there was no thought for character development or anything like that. I just wrote it. And going forward after that, I started picking up little things here, little things there. Now I'm getting into more of the other elements of it because I'm ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you become aware of it when you are ready for it, and you think, oh. And that's one of the things. I actually mentor other middle grade and young adult authors, and one of the things that I love about mentoring is that when you're being critical, it's really easy to spot weaknesses in their writing that might appear in your own, and then apply that to your own writing, so you grow from critiquing other people's work, which is a great benefit for being a mentor. So I love that whole experience too. Yeah.
I'm also going through a certification course right now to be a book coach. As I went through that, I was like, oh my gosh, every writer should take this.
Yeah.
Because it's just so fascinating, the approach that they took and the way things were done and the way they applied it.
Yeah.
That looks so cool.
Yeah. I just didn't want it to fall off as I nailed the rest of it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. But yeah, no, so it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think, and obviously this is something that is the right time for you to do, and you're learning so much from it. So I think that's incredible. Do you think your writing process has changed from your first book to now, or from your non-fiction to your fiction?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Non-methodical
Mm,
is very structured. It takes you from here to here. You didn't know something there. Now you know something here.
mm,
Um, it's very, there isn't that, while you take them from I don't know to I know, within that realm, there isn't the continuity necessarily between the chapters. So, for example, you say in my book on politics and writing, one might be how to handle negative um, residents or emails, and the next one is how to speak in public. So, it's not an obvious connection, but
yeah.
still it takes you from being great at communicating to being
Yeah.
knowledgeable about it. So that process is quite a bit different. With fiction, you do take from A to B.
Mm,
You take the from this point to this point, but how they get there in between is much more connected
mm.
and is much more variable
Okay. Yeah.
and creative.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And amazing that you can do both, and that you can separate yourself out into um that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess in some ways it's like writing that dissertation at university, or you're doing that factual kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to market your books?
I haven't been. I kind of just put them out there and
Mm.
waited to see if anything happened. And I had a book launch for my first one and stuff like that. I was going to have a book launch for my second one, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I haven't done a whole lot. I'm going to be doing more. The series that Monique and I are working on is very much. It's very much more intentional. The
Okay.
book, the series is going to be very intentional. It's going to be. It's not going to be, yay, we finished the first one. Let's plug it out there and see what happens. It's going to be, no, we're going to wait until we have the three. We're going to have, this is the schedule. This is the process we're going
Yeah.
to use. This is how we're going to. It's going to be very different.
Yeah. And I think when there's two of you, it's not like you can just suddenly get trigger happy and push that button. There's two of you involved, so you gotta do it together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay.
Well,
So
and we
now,
want to make sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You've answered all the hard questions, so now we have some fun questions. As a writer, what would you choose as your spirit animal? I heard some dogs in the background. Is it a dog or is it something else?
I have a pug.
Oh, do
So
you?
I was
That's
trying
my
to relate it
son's
to writing, though.
favorite. My son loves pugs.
We have
Adores them.
we have a black. Before that, we had a fawn-colored pug.
Yeah.
My husband's a car guy, so first pug was Portia. This one is Carrera. We've had a dog named Bentley.
Oh, I
We
love
have a
it.
cat named Mercedes.
That's brilliant.
So yeah.
I love it. Well, that answers my pet question. That's fabulous. Oh, do you have a favorite snack when you're writing, or food, or drink, or anything like that?
Well, popcorn is good because it doesn't leave marks all over your keyboard like chocolate does.
Do you not think?
So,
Because don't you get greasy fingers from the popcorn? I get greasy fingers from
well,
popcorn.
I usually get like pre-made popcorn that has flavors and stuff. So at the most, it's salt and
Uh,
stuff. So it's not like the theater popcorn.
yeah.
That and licorices.
Oh, nice. I like it. Unusual.
And
I,
you can
I
kind of like you put it.
yeah. Oh,
As you,
fabulous. Okay. Are you a Marvel fan or a DC fan, or neither?
I don't know which is which.
Okay, so Marvel is like Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Avengers, blah blah blah, whereas DC
I
is
really,
the Superman, Batman, Aquaman, that lot, Wonder Woman,
by Iron Man.
Iron Man. So we're going Marvel. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. I'll forgive you now. Okay, if you could take 3 books to a desert island, what would they be?
My Bible,
Mhm.
The Red Tent by Anita Diamond.
Oh.
What would the third one be? Probably How to Survive on a Desert
Yeah.
Island.
Do you know, in all the times I've asked that question, no one has ever said anything like that. That's brilliant.
Oh,
I love it. That's the way to do it, isn't it? Okay, what about
thank
what 3 books would you give to an alien?
what would be the depends. See, I'm a communications person.
Mm.
What is your hope for outcome? Do you want to scare them away? Do you want to welcome them to Earth? Do you want to make friends, enemies?
Well,
It would depend.
what would you
I'm a
want?
strategy girl. I would want to make friends.
Okay.
I would want to make friends.
Mhm.
Maybe E.T.
Oh,
If E.T.'s a book, isn't it?
I don't. Well, you could give him the screenplay. Yeah.
Yeah. So E.T. and probably a comic book or something.
Yeah.
Something fun.
Interesting. I like that. Okay, and your last and final question, and you can go on about the day. Do you have any skills that would help you survive the Hunger Games? I hope you've seen the Hunger Games.
Oh, I would be so.
Yeah.
I would be so bad. That book. I read the books, and I really enjoyed the books, but it's so dark. Kids. Oh yeah. Um, I don't think so because I couldn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Like I see it.
Yeah.
So no, except okay, I'm a diplomat.
Yeah.
I can be very tactful. Having been a politician, I know I can deal with people and difficult people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that would be it.
I think that's a great skill when you could team everybody up into, and then kill the last one standing when you've worked up your nerve. Somehow lay a trap for them so you don't have to do it physically. I'm like that too. I would be like the first one gone, yeah.
Figure out how to get to kill each other.
Yeah. 8. Well, Carla, thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you and learning about your books and your journey and your story. And I wish you all the success with this new series. I cannot wait to hear how it goes. I hope you do document it. I would love to hear how it's going, and I cannot wait to actually read it when you send it out. But if you want to get back on when you get closer to the time and have a chat about it more, I would love that to do that. But until then, thank you so much and good luck.
Well, thank you. Fun.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you around. Good stuff.
You too.
So that was Carla Howatt, everybody. What an amazing person, an amazing human. So much that she's been through in her life. A writer of fiction and non-fiction with an amazing journey that she's been through. And this new thriller series sounds absolutely fabulous. Do stay tuned if you want to hear for more updates. And if you would like to be the star of the show, please go to the link in my bio and sign up to the Google form. And I will love to have you on and chat.